Hey folks, sorry for the interruption. Just to save me some effort later, I'm going to be completely greedy and selfish here. I'm just going to read this card off again. We're just going to start the YouTube recording right here. So again, we have a 5 minute timer. We'll go through the cards. I'll read off the odd numbered cards. Sean will read off the even cards. Right here we have one of the central cards in Nightman support. It's a Mace Master, 0 difficulty 5 control weapon with the symbols Death, Order, and Earth. Has E commit during your turn. Your slammer weapon gets +1 damage for each card in your opponent's card pool. So this is really, really good. It punches way above its weight. Adds a spam foundation, just a card you play on turn one to guarantee you'll pass it even if you check badly. And then mid or late game, it adds a lot of damage to your attack so that you make a one-shot kill if you can get your opponent's card pool flooded enough.
Yeah, this card has incredible damage potential on a 0 difficulty foundation. You could be playing 2 and 3 difficulty foundations. Other foundations try to get damage into this neighborhood. I mean, large and scary looking has to have your opponent have a bigger hand size than yours. You got a hoop to jump through that for 3 damage, and that's a 2 difficulty foundation. So, and if you're using Nightman support, which lets you add weapons to your hand, this will be a nice little piece of candy because it's not going to be hard to play towards the end of a turn.
Yep. Yeah, 0 difficulty spams are very, very valuable for a lot of reasons. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to call this a staple, but you'll see this is an archetype staple for sure. If you're filling up your opponent's card pool and playing weapons and slams, this will be a 4 of in a lot of decks.
For sure.
All right, even if you're not, even if you're not filling up card pools, honestly, just if you get +1 or +2 out of this, it's doing a fine job as a 1 diff or 0 diff.
It's a 0 diff.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
And, just real quick before we go, I mean, off of Earth, you do get unquestionable loyalty,
Yep.
which means you get +2 damage on a 0 diff E commit without having to do any of the Nightman shenanigans.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see some decks popping up that are playing 4 unquestionable loyalties and some ways to cheat it with payoff cards like this around.
Exactly. I
All
think
right.
Earth made out really big with this set.
All right. Well, let's see what we get next. Respect for Yamato.
All right, this is a 2 difficulty, 5 control check foundation with a +3 high block with Death, Earth, and Order. Once again, a weapon. Your turn destroy. Your slam or weapon attack gets +4 damage. Only playable if there is at least one card in your opponent's card pool.
Wow.
So this card packs quite a bit of punch, I think. 4 difficulty on an E destroy is, I think, really, really good, especially since you don't have to pay any additional costs. I mean, we had a card back in the Middle Ages of UFS. What was it? Unstoppable Warrior, where you destroyed foundations for 3 damage. I mean, that card was a little better because you could just destroy any foundation you wanted. But
Unstoppable
there was
actually was
hoops.
+4.
Oh, it was +4?
Yeah, but it was all in. You couldn't play foundations. You couldn't play non-attack cards for the rest of that turn. So it was
Right.
quite restrictive, and it also required you to have a huge attack, printed 5 damage or more.
Right. I mean, if you've got a slammer weapon, even if it's 1 damage, you can make it a 5 damage move with this card if your opponent has blocked this turn, or if you've done any Nightman shenanigans, unquestionable loyalty, team Fatal Fury shenanigans. So, and there's no, I mean, I can't think of any slam throws or weapon throws other than Nightman's Ultra Rare. But if they did make a weapon throw coming out here anytime soon, this card's gonna be really, really good with it.
There are actually 2 slams out of Mega Man that I can think of that both interfere with blocking. There's Crash Slam and Magnet Slam. So in Crash Slam, it's basically guaranteed to deal half damage if they're only allowed to mid block and it's a low attack. And then Magnet Slam can only be fully blocked. So if they don't have a low block hanging around, that's 8 damage to the dome at a really low. Very easy to have that happen.
Yeah, it's
So
not unreasonable for someone to have blocked earlier in the turn and be able to play either of those moves.
yeah, definitely. They both have stun even. So if you fill up the card pool, stun them out a little bit, you can make those unblockable pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, I think this card's solid. It's at common, so people are going to be playing this. It's a high block on the foundation, so that's also really good. So I would not be surprised to see somebody piling up on a weapons deck in limited and, really taking advantage of this card.
Oh wow! Someone in chat mentions leap into the fray, or into the fray, whatever it's called. The 5 mid 3 that gets -1 of the check to the block gets -1 for each mid block in your card or mid attack in your card pool. Um,
That
yeah.
seems pretty good.
So
All right,
this,
anything else on this card, Kevin Broberg?
I just think it's interesting. I think you'll like the if your opponent has copies of this in their staging area, it gives you an incentive not to block, so you don't get a card in your card pool. And so it makes it makes kind of an interesting mind game of whether or not you're going to block, whether or not your opponent will be able to follow up and punish you for blocking, or if you should just tank attacks with your face and have the game move toward its conclusion that way. I think it's a cool design that way.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's pull up the next
Or
card. All right, I've got another character. This is 3 Dot Mega Man. I'm going to check off some stuff from our countdown list here real quick.
Kevin Broberg, you're going to
Empty
get
that out
every
here.
character.
Oh yeah. Wait.
Yeah, isn't it? I believe it's 12. No, it's not 12 card sport. Ignore me. Never mind.
Anyway, so 3 Dot Mega Man. He's only a 3 difficulty character. He's a 6 hand size, 28 vitality with good order and water. His abilities are your character cards get -3 difficulty, and F once per turn, discard the top 4 cards of your deck. You may add one attack with discarded this way with a pretty difficulty of X or less to your hand. X equals 2 plus the number of character cards in your staging area. So there's a lot going on with this card. Clearly, as a starting character, if you build a deck that only contains 3 difficulty attacks, his form will just give you an attack as long as you can flip one over the top 4 cards of your deck. Um, as a stacker character, he only has 3 difficulty, and so he makes it. He fits very well into any of the 1 or 2 dot Mega Man decks to let you dig into more attacks. And if you choose to stack him, you're guaranteed to be able to find any 4 difficulty attack with his form, because he'll be your second character at least. Um, but if you go the other way and start as 3 dot Mega Man and then stack the other ones, they'll be 2 and 3 difficulty respectively. So uh, that's a very powerful option. You'll kind of be trading off if you choose to build a deck that, let's say, has all 4 difficulty attacks. Um, your starting character will do nothing until you find a stacker, but you'll have these really high impact, effectively assets in your deck of the stacker characters, like stacking the starter Mega Man. I actually did that in an all deck, off symboling it, just because it was that powerful. Like the stun 2 on every once per turn, and then also the huge damage pumps. So there's a lot going on, and I think this is a very interesting character.
Yeah, I mean, this character I think is pretty good design. His form calls back to a card from currently an extended researching anywhere.
Oh,
Not as good as the real
oh,
researching anywhere because you only get one instead of two. Sorry, Kevin Broberg.
yeah.
However,
No, I hate
you
it.
know, being able to stack characters at such a low rate is just amazing. Because even back when we've had other stacker characters, other than like Super Skullman and Cody, you've always had to play those characters on a 4, 5, or 6 difficulty. And starting as this Mega Man, you're only playing on a 2 or a 3. That's not as much of a big pill to swallow to get that stacking. We talked with Dr. Wiley the first night we ran this special about how playing a 6 difficulty character to stack is, kind of rough when you could have just played an attack instead,
Yep.
probably at lower difficulty. But I think this character really rewards you for stacking in a way that we haven't done in a while since Gemini Man, and he's banned. And then Skullman before that.
Yeah, he should be. It's a very interesting, different dimension to the game that you don't see a lot of, the character stacking.
I do like that, with the stacking characters and all characters in the set, they are at uncommon rarity. So it means you're not going to have to open 6 boxes to get your 4 ultra rare Mega Mans like you had to do with Omniel back in Tides of Vengeance, or at Rare when you had to do it for Super Skullman. So over the course of 2 boxes, you should be in pretty good shape to get your uncommon Mega Man. Now, folks should be aware, and what I hear is every box of the set does come with a foil character.
Yeah, so I
So
believe the way
all the
this
characters are
works is
common.
that foil characters are effectively rares, and you're guaranteed to get about one of them per box.
My
Um,
understanding is it does replace a rare slot.
yep. So I think that if you open any foil 3 dot Mega Men, that will be probably probably the most premium character, because it's a character you might want 4 of if you're playing it as a stacker character option in a different starting character Mega Man, and also just everyone loves Mega Man, so he's more chased for that reason too.
It's a damn shame that one dot Mega Man's not shiny as well.
Well, you can get the 8-bit at
Because you,
least to pimp it out a little bit.
but he's not shiny.
No.
Well, enough with Mega Man. Let's talk about the Rush Jet adapter.
Who, mama?
So this is a 3 difficulty 5 check action with a +1 low block with good, order, and water. Mega Man only. It says while this card is attached to your character, you may play once per turn abilities on your character a second time each turn. And then respond. After your ranged attack deals damage, attach this card to your character. So there's actually quite a bit going on with this card. I think that most people won't realize, Kevin. So it rolls a +1 low block, which is really really good.
Yep.
Because of the way its first ability is written, once per turn abilities can be played a second time. That doesn't mean you get any sort of bonus out of stacking multiple copies of Rush Jet Adapter.
Yep.
And while the attachment zone is changed, I am not aware of any ability that discards actions from your staging area. So unless there's something that specifically says remove a card from your opponent's staging area from the game, this card's safe. And more often than not, it usually specifies remove a foundation or asset from your opponent's staging area from the game,
Well,
or destroy a
well,
foundation or asset.
Well, judge. If an action is in your staging area, you have to remove it. It has to get out of there.
Well, this card I think falls under the golden rule, Kevin, because it can be there.
Well, it says attach it to your character, but it's not. It doesn't say it's allowed to be attached to your character.
I'm sure this one's going to get a hand wave.
Yes.
And
it works, guys.
And,
don't worry about it.
And destroy effects couldn't even touch it anyhow. You can't destroy an action. You can discard it or you can remove it from the game, and that's really about it.
So why don't you tell us about what strategic implications there are of Rush Jet Adapter?
Okay, so basically it says you can play once per turn abilities a second time, which for Mega Man 1 dot is irrelevant. He can play his abilities as many times per turn as long as you can pay the costs. However, 2 dot Mega Man and 3 dot Mega Man both have once per turn abilities. So, effectively, if you have Mega Man 3 dot plus Rush Jet Adapter, you get 2 instances of look at the top 4 cards of your deck. Or with Mega Man 2 dot, you have 2 instances of his once per turn response. And if you have them stacked together, it just goes bonanza from there.
Yeah, you can get up to stun 4 or breaker 4 as long as you play cards that don't already have those keywords out of the first Mega Man, and also adding up some damage bonuses on those. For the second Mega Man, you can obviously get a ton of extra attacks and probably put together a kill pretty quickly once this gets online. I think
this card is bonkers.
One interesting thing to go with this is the cards What Lies Ahead and what's the name of the Takuma attack, the ranged attack? Anyway, Takuma has an attack that if you discard a card, it always deals 1 damage. And so these can guarantee that you'll be able to trigger your Rush Jet Adapter on command and start getting off with your bonus abilities. And I think it's definitely worth doing this. Once you're stacking Mega Men, doubling up on those effects is very, very powerful. And in the meantime, you just have a +1 low block in your hand, whatever.
Yeah, the card you're thinking of is How Shiku Ken. Discard a momentum. I'm sorry, discard a card if it's completely blocked, it still deals 1 damage. I think Order Mega Man decks are going to be running this card because they want to get Rush Jet Adapter online as quickly as possible.
Yep, and I think What Lies Ahead too helps to get this online and also really hoses throws. So it's a good thing to have.
Agreed. I mean, anything else with this card, Kevin Berber?
I don't think so.
All right, let's move on to Astro Crush.
All right, so this is probably going to be one of the premier attacks out of Mega Man Zone support. It's a 4 difficulty, 2 control, no block attack. It's a 3 high for 5 with ranged. And as an enhance, it gains multiple X the number of character cards in your staging area. And during the end phase, add all multiple copies from your card pool to your staging area face down. So, more like maybe I'm being a little optimistic on this card. Just being a multiple 1 3 high for 5 on a 4 difficulty is a pretty solid rate. you're going ahead of the curve of cards like Blizzard Sword, or you're operating. I mean, that's a 5 difficulty with a good block. That's 4 difficulty with no block, and you also get some foundations back for your trouble of throwing out those multiple copies. Um, if you stack multiple 2/3 high for 5 is pretty much unheard of, completely outrageous. Although I suppose if you compare it to Ice Slasher, it's about the same as that. Ice Slasher is a very powerful card though, so you're in good company. Being able to dig into this once you've stacked once with 3 dot Mega Man, I think is going to be a really big deal. And yeah, I think it's a pretty impressive card all around.
Yeah, this card is incredibly powerful. Turning your multiple copies into face downs, I think is really good because normally your multiple copies just go away. Once they're in your card pool, they're face down, they deal damage or don't, and then they're just gone. But getting them into your staging area is really, really good. And if you've got, trying to think, do you get DeForester on any of these symbols, Kevin Broberg?
I believe you do not.
That's a damn shame. Because it'd be cool if you could bounce those DeForesters back into
Whew.
using DeForester to get those multiple copies back in your hand would be pretty awesome, but you can't do it. You'll
Well,
have to do some weird multi-symboling or be playing off
oh
of
yeah.
all for your foundation base
Maybe
with Mega Man
we're
1.
playing a DeForester Athena deck that plays good symbol attacks. Hmm?
Hmm.
That sounds fun to me.
Hmm. But yeah, cards incredibly powerful. It's a 4/2. It's in the same company as Rain Flush. Unfortunately, you can't feed this to your Rain Flush. That's kind of my only complaint about this card.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
having multiple 4/2, 3 high for 5s in your deck that have multiple seems pretty good.
Yeah, definitely the ideal time to play this card is when you've stacked a character, you have 2 momentum, and you're at the end of an attack string. Getting back 2 ready foundations to defend yourself with is really just a nice kicker on the end of. Hopefully, you'll be able to put enough damage on the table while you're doing this that your opponent will be forced to block with all their attacks and not really be able to put together a backswing.
Well, with this being a ranged attack, you can use a lot of Mega Man 1 dot support to make it make the first one at least really, really big.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Actually, it's got like Pursuit of Dr. Wily, Mega Man himself. And I was thinking, I know one thing I've been surprised by if I build a good deck in Standard, good actually has a great deal of momentum generation between Mega Man 1 dot's motivation, add a range card from your card pool to your momentum, Hunters once more, Kyo's Jacket, and a couple other cards that I'm blanking on. Uh, so I think that they'll be, I wouldn't be surprised to see good decks running around that are stacking a character, then multiple twoing, multiple threeing this out with ease.
Hmm. Yeah, fantastic attack. Good job with the design on this.
All right. Any last words?
No, sir.
All
Let's move
right.
on to Gravity Hold.
It's got a lot of
So this is a
gravitas.
3 difficulty, 3 check attack with a +2 mid block, too low for 4, with good order and water. Breaker 1, flash, and ranged. And this card does not count towards progressive difficulty. So this card, the way I see this card is it's a breaker block, which you probably want to have, every now and then in your deck. But most importantly, it's a card that you can pick up with Mega Man 3 dot before stacking. And a low zone attack with flash, people may not be able to deal with that. They don't get a chance to use things like Ophidiophobia against it. They just have to deal with the low zone attack right now, which helps get the momentum you need for your Astro Crush, was it? Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's really what this card is. It's a role player, I think, specifically for that Mega Man deck.
Yeah, I like this card a lot, which shouldn't be surprising if you know the first competitive deck the first deck I played, as you say, in the Middle Ages of UFS, which was the old Slice Kicks Mike Low deck. Um, Tiny attacks that don't count progressive difficulty are right up my alley. I think that not having flash kind of makes you have to ease off, and I'm not sure if these symbols are quite in a position to exploit it to the maximum extent. What you really love with a card like this is an effect like Darkside Master or Slaughterhouse, which I don't think are really available. But I'm imagining, let's say, an Andy deck that plays turn 1, throw it down into this. Take my 7 speed or 7 damage flash attack straight to the knee.
Well, there is flash support on one of those symbols. Quickman had the good symbol. So there are some cards in Quickman if you want to use them that could give you things to do during the response step.
Oh, that's very
You know,
true.
give it
Yeah.
speed, damage, stuff like that.
Yep.
So
Unfortunately,
that could be some support to make this card better.
Quickman himself would really love if this card were a 4 difficulty because it would trigger his bounce effect, but that might be a little bit too degenerate at that point.
Well, it's printed difficulty of 4 or more. On a low zone, that might be a little scary.
Yeah, I think this card's going to see a pretty good amount of play across the board, though. It's just a solid card. If you have kind of a card advantage engine to support it, to really make it so that you're not just plinking away with 4 damage attacks that aren't going to help you progress your game, I think it's going to be a really important role player. Another thing actually you can do with it is that's pretty neat on water is combine it with both Etten cells and improved design. Improved design adds up some damage on it to really make it really impactful, force your opponent to block, and then Etten cells lets you fetch more of them and get some damage on the board without counting up too much progressive difficulty.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And like I said, going back to Quickman, 88 miles per hour can help you put this flash attack into your hand if you have a couple flash attacks in your deck. So you could be cycling through your deck and getting the attacks you need pretty quickly if you build your deck correctly. Always on the move is our commit to give it +2 speed and +2 damage. 4 low for 6, I think is pretty respectable. Built for speed additional gives it +1 speed for destroying a foundation. So and then yeah, I mean I think this is really solid. I would not mind trying to make a good flash themed deck because I think there's almost enough flash attacks to do it right now.
Yeah.
I'm good.
All right. Cool. Let's pull up the next one. I've got Noise Crush. So this is a really interesting card. It's a 4 difficulty, 3 control, +1 high block, 3 speed high for 4, ranged reversal with Mega Man symbols good, order, water. And it has enhanced discard 1 card, add 1 character card from your discard pile to your hand. So just on raw stats alone, this is a pretty nice card. It's actually quite similar to another card that's seen a lot of play, Cossack Buster, I think, which has literally
Mm.
the same stat line: 4 difficulty, 3 high for 4, 3 check with a worst block +2 high. And instead, it actually had ranged reversal and good and water even on the symbol front, although it had all instead of order. Um, but then its enhanced allowed you to stack a card from your staging area on top of your deck to get +1 speed, +1 damage. And alternatively, this has a much more defensive ability, allowing you to exchange any card in your hand for a somewhat ideal block, a +0 mid block. Um, I think this card's really, really good. Anything that lets you take bad cards and make them good is just a very powerful effect. It lets you put more conditional cards in your deck, cards that are good in only certain situations. And anytime you're playing a reversal, being able to have a +0 block ready for the next card is a really, really big deal. This works great with the Phideophobia to make it so that you'll flip it and then be able to take no damage from the next attack with that +0 mid block. And yeah, on offense, it's probably great. It's probably just fine too. Just as a solid stats, decent stats, and letting you exchange bad cards for good cards. And that's even before we get into trying to use this to pick up stacker characters, which is really, really nice. If you're playing 4 copies of, but like let's say you're playing 3 Mega Man to start, and you're playing 4 copies of both the others, you might get stuck with like 3 copies of 1 Mega Man in your hand and no copies of 2 Mega Man. This will help you find your distinct stackers that are really the ideal you want to have.
Yeah, I really love this card overall. I think even decks that aren't Mega Man, you might see them if they're running this card, throw a couple of body blocks in the deck just because you can grab them from your bin.
Yep.
Being able to, if you're in a situation, especially if you're playing good and you're on the defense and you block with a Templar, and I've been in a lot of situations where I've blocked with a Templar and drawn 2 non-blocks, and it's like, well, that sucks.
Sean, I've bad
But if you
news.
reverse, what's that?
This card doesn't come with
No,
Templar.
man, I don't know my cards. Crap.
So
I,
good does have several draw effects like Dauntless Hero or there's another the Mega Man Zero diff lets you discard a momentum to add your 0 mid block or 0 difficulty 3 mid block foundation to your hand. Um, there's a variety of other draw effects. This is another in the long line of effects like designed for combat that just let you marginally improve the quality of your hand. on command.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, if even if you block, you play this as a reversal, and you don't have any good blocks left in your hand, and you know that your opponent's going to keep attacking mid, I would rather trade my +3 mid block in for a +0 mid block
Yeah, actually, you raise a good point.
any day of the week.
We're not. I was gonna say we're not far off from having some of the great mid blocks in the format go away, but I guess we're not losing Templar or ever hopeful anytime soon. So this card actually makes mid attacks as a category even worse because it makes it so that your opponent has better. That players on these symbols will have easy access to buddy blocks whenever they want them at a slightly discounted
Hmm.
rate compared to normal. Because I've built decks before that have cards like Bang out of Skullman support, which said add a character from your discard pile to the top of your deck. And I was only playing two character blocks because I wasn't unhappy to have Bang without a character block stack. And then the rest of the time, you go through enough of your deck in UFS that you'll usually find one when you need it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see just mid-range order, good or water decks that aren't even playing a stacker character or don't even expect to stack very often, just playing two buddy blocks to turn this card into a great defensive resource.
Agreed. And it's uncommon, so you'll see it in your draft pods.
That is an excellent point. I think this card is absolutely outrageously good for draft. Attacking is a key part of the format because usually it's hard to put together a kill string, which is both good for playing loose pokes and also good for um, you can overextend basically and not have to worry about just getting murdered. And also
Hmm.
blocking is like people have less coherent block schemes because you had to draft them. And this card makes it so that attacking suddenly means you're going to walk into a 3 high for 4 reversal that gave your opponent a perfect block.
Hmm. All right, we're just about out of time on this card, so let's move on to a new rival. This is a 2/4 foundation with a +3 mid block, with good order and water. Says F once per turn, discard a character card to draw a card, and then E your turn commit. Your attack gets +1 damage for each character card in both staging areas, maximum 5. So this is a rare foundation. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it, Kevin Berberg. The F once per turn, discard a character card and draw a card, really helps decks that, gets in a situation. I've played a lot of stacking decks. I played Angels, I played Skullman, I used to stack Yoshi Toras back in like the Stone Age, and it was always really, really shitty to get a character card that you already had in your staging area and you didn't want to play another one of.
Yep.
Or if you draw into a buddy block and you want to attack this turn, having this F once per turn pitch a character card to draw a card, I think is really good. And it's not a first form either, like how a lot of these effects typically are. So you can do it whenever you want. So if you draw, a buddy block in the middle of your turn and you don't want it, you can pitch it and draw a new card.
Yep.
So I like how it's more flexible than a lot of the F discard a card, draw a card abilities.
I hadn't thought of that
And
with
then
if you
it's
draw into the buddy block mid turn. That's a really good point.
and then the E commit. This is an E commit +2 damage always, and I'm a little bummed to see maximum 5 on it, but it isn't restricted to any type of attack like a lot of Mega Man's foundations are. When it comes to damage
Yep.
bonuses, it doesn't stipulate it has to be a ranged attack or anything like that. So, I mean, if you're in a situation where you are playing stacking characters and there's more stacking characters coming out, I don't know, and you play a throw and you can just give your throw like +7 damage, that could be a problem on an
Yeah.
E commit.
+5 is pretty solid, but yeah, +7 would be even better. And yeah, I
What
think
do you
I,
think?
I I agree with everything you just said. I really like the just like the danger of playing cards like character blocks and Templar and things like that are that you can get your hand clogged up with them and draw them at the inopportune times or draw way too many of them and just not be able to play the game, not be able to get some foundations in play, not be able to attack your opponent coherently. And this card really mitigates that a lot. And at the same time, it has a decent rate for a damage pump, like we were talking about on the Nightman Foundation, how a 0 difficulty that commits for +2 or +3 is incredible. Well, a 2 difficulty that commits for +3 is just fine. It's absolutely acceptable to do that, and it has no restrictions, you said. So you can do this on reversals. You can do this, you can do it once on reversal and once back on your turn, and it can really put out a lot of put a lot onto the scoreboard and try to knock your opponent down with it.
Hmm.
So I like it a lot.
Agree.
All right,
Cool
moving on.
beans.
We've got Nearly Consumed. So this is a 2 difficulty 5 control foundation with no block and Mega Man symbols, good order water. And it has only one ability, R Destroy. After you take 4 or more damage, add 1 character card from your discard pile to your staging area. So
That's
this
insane.
card is very, very good. Um, just as a broad theoretical idea, anytime a 2 difficulty foundation that you can put into your staging area and have it sit there forever can pay you off with a 6 difficulty card, you should sit up and pay attention. And that's what this card does. Some character cards are fairly costed at 6 difficulty because of how powerful their effects can be. And this card just gives it to you right away as long as your opponent is foolhardy enough to slap you for 4 damage. And spoilers, you will get slapped for 4 damage anytime you're playing a competitive game of UFS. Maybe it won't happen until your opponent is doing a one-shot kill turn on you. So that might be the danger with it, is you're now taking a foundation out of your staging area and exchanging it for a character card that's not going to help you pass control checks. And maybe it might be like turn 15, you've been waiting all this time for them to consume you, but this card is going to have a huge impact on how your opponent is allowed to play the game, because stacking can be a very, very big deal.
This card is going to be really, really big, not just for Mega Man, but there are a ton of characters, especially in that King of Fighters block, who are going to be able to take advantage of this card. And you're going to be able to get a 6 difficulty character in your staging area on the cheap. Even Mega Man's Nemesis, if you're playing Dr. Wily off of water, you can take 4 damage and stack the other Dr. Wily for free. Which I think that's pretty good. I'm just scrolling through real quick to see, if there's any other really good people you could take advantage of this with. And here, oh, my computer froze for a second. Bear with me, people. I think that you could do this with Kyo
Oh,
off of
Kyo's
order.
real. Yeah.
You could do it with Terry. And I think in standard, that's about it. Kyo and Terry can take advantage of this. In Turbo, you can do this with Gemini Man. In if you want to play extended, you get a whole bunch of King of Fighters
Yeah, a
characters.
whole
You
host
get
of characters in extended. There's Astrid too.
yeah, Astrid, Garrett Brett.
Mm. This Garrett Brett can do this. I know that he has at least one character that's legal right now that chains one of these. He must, right?
Oh boy, I don't know. He didn't come up in my search. No, I don't think so. I don't think he has a character with these symbols in this format, Kevin Broberg.
Wow, he has 6 symbols, but I guess none of these. What a beating.
None of these ones. So, in extended, this card is going to be really good if people decide to play it, because you can stack, there's more different types of characters. You could be stacking Astrids. You could be stacking, I don't even want to talk about it. There's just so many opportunities. But in standard, you get Terry, you get Kyo, you get Mega Man, and you get Dr. Wily.
Yeah, you get crazy amounts of
Which,
Mega Man. And yeah, by the way, Garrett's symbols are actually, in fact, Earth, Evil, Life, and Chaos, Fire, Void. So no overlap whatsoever with this card. Just a darn shame.
So this card's going to be insane. If you're playing a deck that ever wants to stack, I'm sure you're going to be running a couple copies of this.
Yep. All right. Moving on. Peace
Moving
Interrupted.
on, we've got our Peace Interrupted, a 1/5 foundation with a +3 mid block with good order water. Once per turn, after this foundation's due to your opponent's effect, ready it. And then E-commit, your ranged attack gets +1 speed. So it's a spam card. It's a 1 difficulty foundation. It's easy to get this out. And if you're playing in a meta where stun is really popular, if all your friends like playing fire, I would run this card in your deck if you're worried about getting committed out, because once per turn after it's committed, you ready it. You don't have to have it ready to respond to do anything, because it just boop.
Yep.
Turns back up.
This is a spam card through and through, and it's like you just said, you pretty much just use it if you're worried about getting stunned out. E-commit +1 speed. It's a fine effect. You're not sad to have it. You might win a game because of it, but it's really not anything to write home about.
Yeah. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it for this card.
Yep. Sometimes you gotta have easy ones. All right, we got Suspicious of Mr. X. So this is a two difficulty, four control, no block foundation, with good order water like everyone else. And this one's got a spicy effect, as you would expect from the stats. No block, four control. Commit one card in your opponent's staging area with a printed difficulty of X or less. X equals the number of character cards in your staging area. So,
Judge.
hit me. What up?
Okay, so if my opponent has a 3 difficulty Mega Man, can I commit that? Even though, well, if he's got 3 difficulty Mega Man, but he's stacked other Mega Mans on it, can I still commit Mega Man if I have 3 characters in my staging
So
area?
the difficulty of your starting character is the difficulty of your starting character, and other character cards that are in that are attached, I think, is how it works right now. Other characters you've stacked do not affect the difficulty of your starting character.
I knew it.
You could
Sorry, go ahead,
probably.
Kevin.
So let's say if I've started a starter Mega Man, so 2 dot, and I stacked the promotional one, I might, or the new one, the uncommon one from this set, I might be able to commit just to the 3. No, that's stupid. No, I'm pretty sure that's not how it works. Anyway, this card's really, really good because there is no timing restriction on this. If your opponent is ever foolish enough to attack you and you have, say, 3 copies of this ready, you can just start ripping their board apart at will, even if you haven't stacked at all. Just committing your opponent's face down, 0 difficulties, and 1 difficulty cards can be a very powerful effect. Clark's Sunglasses is a card that I think has seen some amount of play, deserves to see more play, and lets your opponent choose what they're committing at a similar rate. It's an asset which commits 1 foundation as a cost, forcing your opponent to commit their own foundation for the effect. And this, you can do this. You can tap all these sideways as soon as your opponent plays an attack. I think it's going to be a huge deal.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct on this. This card is going to be really, really good, I think, in reversal decks. Right now, we've got a card out of J. Talbane's support that's E-commit. You get stun 1 and +1 speed.
Yep.
And in any deck running reversals on those symbols, people are packing 4 copies of that.
Oh yeah,
And
quick and precise is a build around because it allows you to imitate this effect by playing a reversal. This card, you don't have to reversal your opponent. Your opponent just has to attack you, and you start tearing their board apart. If you combine this with S-Class Hunter, suddenly your opponent has no staging area. Just like that.
yeah, this card's incredibly powerful. I don't think we could stress that enough. And it's at common, so you'll see it pretty frequently in your draft pots.
Yep, it does. I like that it provides a small reward for stacking. Being able to pick off all your opponent's 2 difficulty foundations is a step up in power even further. Yeah, if you've been playing with Red Horizon Legal for a little while, and you've had some friends playing some slightly offbeat decks, you have certainly seen Into the Sunset if anyone's playing those symbols. And Into the Sunset is ludicrously good. This card is a close facsimile.
Yeah, and you don't have to be in desperation to do this either.
Yep.
So you're trading off, commit anything you want at any time for, I could start doing this on turn 1. I think this card's actually, I actually think this card's a little better, Kevin.
On the balance, I think I agree. It's hard to it's really hard to argue against with a -1 difficulty, with +1 difficulty, -1 control, and dropping a +2 mid block. But it's close.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on this one?
I don't think so. Hey, guess what?
All right.
You get to read a character.
What's that? I get to read a character! Napalm Man! Oh, boy. 5 hand size, 30 vitality. He's a big boy with death, fire, and void. First F, destroy one of your opponent's foundations or assets. E, your turn, : for free. If a foundation has been destroyed this turn, your opponent loses 2. Kevin Broberg, the first thing I gotta say is this character is insane. I mean, for free, not only do you get to start off every turn by destroying your opponent's best foundation or asset, every time you play a move, they're going to lose 2 for the whole game. Just lose 2.
Mm-hmm.
Lose 2 more. Just keep losing 2. Lose 2 until you're dead.
Oh, you reversed me.
And
lose 2.
Yeah, lose 2. You played a reversal. And he's got a big booty. He's got 30 vitality, so he can take a couple of hits. And he just pick apart your opponent's staging area. He's like Dimitri, except better. At least for that first ability. I think it's better on Napalm Man than on Dimitri. And
Yeah, it's hard to argue with
mate,
it.
his
I
second
mean,
ability,
his first ability hits foundations or assets, and his first ability takes them out of the game entirely, where Dimitri lets you have them face down.
which means you could someday maybe get them back.
Yeah, and I mean, late game playing Dimitri, like there's a lot of cards you'd like to play in a life deck with that just become ineffective. Quick and precise isn't worth playing because even if you reversal them, they'll just tap their face downs. Uh, the breaker on cards like Templar or Pharaoh Wave is almost irrelevant.
Hmm. And with Napalm Man, when we get into his support, I think that just adds to his level of awesomeness and scariness. I actually worry about the format with this guy in it.
Yeah, Napalm Man might be a wrecking ball that's going to knock seven hand size down a peg. Because getting drained out in because Napalm Man managed to draw 9 attacks before you killed him, even if you fully blocked every single one of them, is gonna feel pretty miserable while he's picking your staging area apart at the same time.
Exactly. Let's move on to Greek Fire.
Whew, mama. All right, Greek Fire. So this is an
That
interesting
art.
one. This is a 2 difficulty, 5 control, plus 2 mid block unique asset with Death, Fire, and Void. I like just saying those resource symbols. This is Death and Fire. It's pretty metal. Anyway, it has an ability enhance your turn remove. Your opponent loses 2 vitality. You may add 1 copy of this card from your hand to your staging area. And response commit. After your opponent plays a form or responsibility on any non-character card, cancel its effect. Only playable if your opponent has lost vitality due to a card effect this turn. So,
Oof.
wow.
Does
Yeah.
does dealing damage count as a card effect?
No.
Okay, I was just curious.
So this might be one of the most straightforward assets, which is also an attack I've ever seen. Your opponent losing 2 vitality straight to the just unconditionally to the face. That's pretty incredible. And then adding extra copies can make your opponent just die out of nowhere. The response, stops your opponent from interacting with you. It's easy to imagine, let's say, an error or all deck trying to reversal you and using secret history to commit your opponent's character and to try to stem the bleeding against Napalm Man, and that response just shutting it down. Um, I'm trying to think of I was gonna say like a stack of bricks, but that doesn't really make sense. This card is
Mhm.
really powerful, and I'm honestly pretty scared. I just foresee losing to this in a horrific fashion, where my opponent has, you know, like I tap down their whole staging area, and they just like play a 3 difficulty attack, check a 3, doesn't matter, and they go Greek Fire, enhance Greek Fire, enhance Greek Fire, enhance Greek Fire, enhance Napalm, and you're dead. And it sounds horrible.
See, what where I'm really concerned about this card in 7 and 8 hand size characters. Imagine this, if you will, Kevin Broberg. You're playing against let's say you're playing against Jiffity Jamber, and she is more likely to get this card, I think, than pretty much everybody else.
Yeah, she
So
can
you
she can
start the
chain them better
turn,
than anyone. Yeah.
and she plays an attack. Okay, and she uses Greek Fire's E, and let's say she was fortunate enough to draw 2 of them, right? She uses Greek Fire Z, sticks the new Greek Fire in her staging area. And so you've lost 2 to a card effect, which means if you block her first move, you're not going to get to Templar, or you're not going to get to Reversal, or you're not going to get to do anything like that because she's already made you lose 2 this turn. So let's say you do try to Reversal, and she's like, no, get out of there. And then she goes to her next move, plays an attack, and Greek Fires you again. And then she gets a nice new. Oh, wait, it's not playable while committed. My plan just fell apart. Lol. But
Well,
still,
having an
having
onboard
that
outer
on board,
league is really good.
yeah. So this card is, I think, is really scary for the format. I worry it's going to make the format a negative play experience because one thing I just don't like is losing because I played UFS. And I feel like Napalm Man's whole thing is you lose because you're playing UFS if you don't do 30 damage quick enough,
Yeah, and I
and
suppose
that scares me.
I'm not sure if I need to be as worried about this card as I thought I did, because at the end of the day, it really kind of just is a like sort of a hasty damage bonus that you can't quite stop. Um,
Hmm.
if you just look at it as your attack gets +2 damage, it doesn't. That's not impressive at all. And yeah, there will be games where your opponent chip shots you and burns you out until you're at 2, and then plays a Greek Fire and passes the turn and says, "Well, you better win right frickin' now." But like the first step to that is them burning you out until you're at 2 life, and that's the challenge, right? That's where you can stop them. It's not like
Yeah,
I don't think I think it's.
blocking
Go ahead, go ahead.
blocking against any deck that runs this attack or against Napalm Man is going to be really, really important because there's so much damage where you just can't get around it. There's so much vitality loss, so you're gonna have to save every bit of damage you can.
Yep. And
I
so it'll
think.
be it'll be really interesting to see what other options there are aside from Greek Fire, aside from Napalm Man himself, for ways to directly drain vitality from your opponent, so you can maybe cancel some forms. That'd be an interesting way to go. I think that Greek Fire might push Alice up a little bit, or Alice's support anyway. Perhaps.
Mhm, maybe.
All right.
So the next card, Kevin Broberg, I think is absolutely insane.
Ooh.
Another insane card in Napalm Man. That's homing missiles. 4 difficulty, 3 check attack, 3 mid for 4 with a +2 mid block. Death, Fire, Void. It's got the ranged keyword. First E, destroy, colon. Destroy one of your opponent's foundations, and your opponent can lose 3 vitality to cancel this effect. So you're either going to lose a foundation of your opponent's choice, so you get to choose if you're playing this, or your opponent's going to lose 3.
Yeah.
And I think there's some foundations that are so critical to decks that your opponent might just lose the 3 sometimes.
Yeah.
If they're trying to set up something that requires a 3 or even a 4 difficulty foundation that they've played, they may not be willing to give it up, especially if it's unique or it was difficult to get in their staging area. It's insane.
Yeah. This card is
Targeted
going to
destruction,
cause.
or you lose.
This card is going to cause a lot of suffering. People
Mhm.
who just pay 3 life every time and just lose and are like, oh god, the card's so overpowered, and people who just get the fear in them and refuse to ever pay life and just get their board ripped apart by this discounted destruction effect. Whew, it's nasty.
And
And hey, it chains 2 with shield ram.
Whoo, I got the vapors.
It
I
chains
mean,
2 with robot masters.
whoo. Kevin Brover, tell me more. Tell me more.
You can play with the
With
Forester.
Okay, with Napalm Man, remember those two things coupled together with no cost other than playing a 4 difficulty attack, which attacking I think is overall pretty good in this format. Ripping 2 of your opponent's foundations and making either ripping, well, you get to rip 2 of their foundations, or you get to rip 1 and make them lose 5. No, yeah, make them lose 5. I mean, you win no matter what.
Yeah, I definitely want to be playing Templar in this format because this sounds awful.
Yeah, this card's really scary, and we're only 3 cards into Napalm Man, and I'm scared.
Yeah, we're definitely
Kevin
gonna
Broberg,
be. We're definitely have to put this guy together and make each other suffer until we don't suffer anymore.
tell us about Napalm Bomb.
Napalm Bomba. All right, so this is a 5 difficulty, 3 control, no block attack. It's a 4 speed low for 5 with Napalm Men symbols. It's ranged and stun too. Oh, and that 5 difficulty I told you about, if your character's printed hand size is 5 or less, it's only a 4 difficulty. It's -1 difficulty. It's a static effect. And it has an enhance. Pretty straightforward. Your opponent loses 2 vitality, but they may discard 1 card to cancel this effect. So I think this card is.
I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna
Yeah,
lose 2 all day to this.
I think this card is really, really good. Yeah, if you play this as a 4 difficulty, you're just doing it. You're out of control. That is not a remotely printable card. Um, but you're playing a character that's a 5 hand size, so it balances out, right? Yeah, totally. Um,
Yeah, it's totally fair.
yeah, like this card
I
is
mean,
as good as Chasm Buster, only it's just different.
I'll see. The card I compare this to is Hyper Bomb.
Yeah, this
So
is
there are some similarities. They're both 5 difficulty. They're both 3 check. They're both low zone. But Hyper Bomb's a 3 low for 5 with stun 2. Okay, it's got stun 2. This is a 4 low for 5. Uh, and if it's not blocked, you draw a card, which is really good. And then commit a foundation. Your opponent must destroy one of the cards that you stunned if they have more vitality than you.
Yeah.
Whereas
So
this one, you just lose. I don't know. I feel like this one's just, other than a block, not having a block, this is in every way better than Hyperbomb.
yeah, it punishes the resource game a little bit, where your opponent has to throw away a card, or else they start just losing a ton of vitality. It's harder to block because it's one speed faster, which doesn't sound like much, but it really, really is, especially because this card is dramatically easier if you're for a five hand size, especially. It's dramatically easier to play it on turn two. And also, like I said last time, it's still ranged attack, still chains two with shield ram.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Really powerful card. So we're now 4 for 4 in scary cards in Napalm Man.
Yep. All right.
Well,
Next
thank
up.
goodness. I'm going to talk about something a little more mellow. Napalm Slam. 4th difficulty, 3 check attack with a +3 high block, 3 mid for 4 slam, commit one of your opponent's foundations. After the 2 cards we just discussed, this card feels like super mellow. Like, this card's the fairest card ever.
Yeah,
Except you get to.
I don't think we've had a selective destruction effect nearly as powerful as homing missiles. Maybe like Smile and Missile that costs a 2 check and a momentum cost and only destroys some foundations, but doesn't have a backdoor, so whatever. And the last card is like better than Hyper Bomb, better than Chasm Buster. Here we have a card that is just, it's fine, it's fair, it commits things, it's nice, it's a good role player, but it's in the realm of reality. It's worse than Kuga. I think probably your HO upper, which could commit anything and had a nice
Yeah.
speed effect built into it. Um, it's a 3 speed mid, so that's really easy to block. But at the same time, you are getting targeted commit out of it. If your opponent's going to be running short on cards in their hand, it might not be worth their time to block only a 4 damage attack.
Yeah. You mean a 6 damage attack because they're going to lose 2 because I'm playing Napalm Man.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. This is a very solid comment, I think.
yep,
And it's once again, it's common, so you will see it in your draft pods. So
yep.
keep an eye out for this card.
I think you'll love this card, Sean O'Brien. It has it's got a built-in. It's an answer to Ever Hopeful. Finally.
Thank God, I could lead off with this card and commit your Ever Hopeful. And then you can block with your other Ever Hopeful in your hand and reversal me. But fortunately, I used Greek Fire. I Greek Fire my staging area, so your Ever Hopeful can get wrecked.
Yeah, yeah. Just everything can get wrecked. All right. Any
Yeah, I
last
mean,
thoughts?
no, but
I do want to
oh
point
man,
out
this card.
this card is a slam. Slams are nice. They got
Mm-hmm.
support these days. All right. Oh boy, diplomatic. All right. So yeah, let's just run through this one real quick because it's actually not. So it's a 1 difficulty foundation. It's got a 3 mid block, a 4 check because they knew they made a mistake. It has commit. Your attack gets +1 speed. And R5 plus. After your opponent removes any number of cards from their card pool, they lose 2 vitality. So I see where they're coming from on this. I think I know what they meant. But this ability triggers during your opponent's end step for every card they remove from the card pool while clearing their card pool. Every foundation going to their staging area, every attack getting cleared out. At least it doesn't work with Nightman, right? Well, until the end of your turn. Um,
Bye, Felicia. I mean,
do we have to talk about it? This card isn't real. It's not happening. They're gonna errata it. They're gonna ban it. They're not. This can't exist. It's not real.
no, this card actually will end the game if it remains legal. I mean, this is not even like beach ball worthy. It's so absurd.
Yeah, like
So
Truong had to kill you by playing his undercosted, overpowered attacks. Addis Syndicate had to just like prevented you from doing anything. This card prevents you from being alive. You can play a 0 attack death deck with this. Jiffany, just 4 Jiffany Jamber, and no cards whatsoever that deal damage to your opponent, and just 4 diplomatic, and you're going to win the game because your opponent's eventually going to be forced to play cards or pass the turn, and they're going to get burned out. I think this is
yeah,
incredibly stupid.
yeah, this
Um,
card's absurd. It's There's no way it's going to ever be legal the way it is now. What I imagine happening is an errata or banning. Jason, I know Jason and crew don't really like erratas, but I really don't want this effect to leave the game because the intent here is after they remove cards from the card pool to make them lose 2. So when they use Ever Hopeful, when just anything that like clears cards from their card pool, Shield Ram, stuff like
Shield
that.
Ram, Assassination Attempt. There's all kinds of really powerful effects that Superior Technique really like. Progressive difficulty is supposed to be one of the guardrails on UFS. Like you gotta draw 7 cards a turn, but the guardrails that you have to deal with every card being more difficult than the last, and turning off and then making your opponent pay Vitality to break the rules there, I think could be very healthy because right now Superior Technique is broken in a lot of cases. Assassination Attempt gets broken. Um,
Yeah, I mean on Superior Technique that's going to hit you for 4. Tamayose that's going to hit you for 2. Uh, Shield Ram's going to get you for 2. Do you know who's going to actually get really hard by this card if it ends up being legal? It's going to make sure Iceman is actually never playable.
yeah, hitting Rain Flush too is another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a collateral damage of the B tier characters who happen to like just like Bishamon is just never going to be playable because Fine Sweep's going to be legal forever.
Kevin Broberg, I have to interrupt you.
Okay.
I'm going to let you finish. Kim. This card is so good against Kim.
Da-na-na! Like hit the air horns, man. That's the dream. Well, I mean, it's good against everyone right now, but yeah, it'll be good against Kim once they nerf it appropriately or whatever they're gonna do.
I mean, you get like 3 of these in your staging area, and Kim actually can't win.
Uh,
Because
I can imagine Kim winning. He just has to go like, kick, 2-check kick, combo, 1-check kick, get domed for 6, picking up the 2-check kick, combo that, multiple, and like have like 2 or 3 momentum, and then multiple them all out and have them be 6 damage. That could maybe work.
yeah, except you can still block.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not
Yeah.
gonna have a good time with this card. So that's cool. I like that. But yeah.
So I really hope they just fix this card and let it stay in the format. I think it'd be really healthy for the game, but they don't like errata, so
Yeah, like
I
I
might be
said,
sad to see it
I
go.
appreciate where they're coming from, but no. And actually, it's 9:30 right now, Sean O'Brien.
It is time to close this up for the night. So, Kevin Broberg, what do you think of what we saw tonight?
Uh, we certainly ended on a note. We saw a lot of Napalm Man seems absurd. He seems really punishing and really powerful, and he's going to be really. He's going to be an experience to play against. Playing against Dimitri kind of sucked, but at least you were punching a brick wall, but the brick wall didn't fall on you, right? Like you weren't like fighting an avalanche, and oh jeez. Napalm Man's going to be like fighting against a freaking surgeon who is ripping you apart as you are trying to punch him back. Oh, jeez. Mega Man was really cool. I like a lot of Mega Man's cards, and I'm excited to see if we get more stackers that will be able to exploit them on top of just himself. Stackers are really fun. And yeah, and then back at the start of the night, I think Nightman's really cool. The weapon themes and card pool themes are both pretty neat.
Mhm. Yeah, I think Nightman, we finished him off. I like him a lot. I think he really fits my play style, where I want to slow the game down to a snail's pace and talk like a Southern gentleman for 55 minutes, and hopefully maybe I win. If not, it's a draw. Enjoy your breakers for the rest of the day, loser.
I think you should if you're playing Nightman, you should find like an old European accent of some sort.
Well, Sir Reginald, I do say, how absurd. Mega Man, I thought was just cool all around. I'm not sure exactly how powerful he's going to be, but he's a character that I just feel is super cool. I think he's going to be fun to play. I think people who are fans of the Mega Man franchise are going to have a lot of fun playing with him because there's a lot of stuff you can do when you have stacker characters.
Yep.
Napalm Man, I'm concerned. He's super powerful. He's going to be super miserable. I mean, I've been playing Dimitri now, Kevin, for what, about 2 or 3 months?
Yep.
And I mean, if people think Dimitri's miserable, Napalm Man's just going to be on a whole nother level. of Misery. I mean, at least Dimitri has to, actually land some moves to kill you, which isn't as easy it used to be because there's, Omni blocks and Ophidiophobia, where Napalm Man just has to play an attack and you lose two.
Yeah,
And
and
then you lose
even
two.
even if you don't have Omni blocks, against throw decks, if you block every single attack, you get to play the game for like 4 or 5 turns. Like they're not that fat, they're not that big. It's not
Right.
easy to block every single attack, and a lot of times there's also multiples or reversals or whatever coming along with them. That's very difficult to block every single attack. But
Hmm.
you get to play for a long time. Napalm Man isn't going to give you that luxury, even if you are blocking
No,
everything.
you are on a clock with him. And I mean, his booty is big, and Fire has a lot of ways to keep itself alive right now.
Yeah, that's real talk.
So, I mean, good luck. He's going to be tough to beat in limited. I think people are going to. He may be the best deck to play in limited.
Yeah. It's hard to say with
Because
not much information, but yeah, he's got legs.
I mean, dealing 30 is really hard in limited.
That's
I
true.
remember when we
Yeah, no, that's
were
true.
playing limited when Clark came out. A lot of playgroups just said no, Clark's just not even legal in our limited event
Yeah, I
because you could just
remember. I remember the Rise of the Masters pre-release. I drafted a what was it, a Crashman deck, just because I wanted to have 29 vitality and I had a bunch of damage reduction foundations, and I managed to tank out Matt Hughes, who had drafted like the perfect Gemini Man deck with like 4 copies of Gemini Man, and I just fucking tanked hits, was hard to kill, and backswung him.
So I think everyone's going to get their first taste of misery at their pre-release events, and I bet you by August 20th, they're be sounding the alarms to ban Napalm Man. I don't think it's necessary. At first I want to see how it plays off in constructed, but a lot of people by 820 are going to be complaining about it. So with that, let's call it a night. So we are going to be taking tomorrow night off because Total Justice Gaming is going to be starting their set review. Should you folks choose to watch it, we'll not be doing Friday because that's our UFS day at our local shop. So we're going to go beat each other up with the pre-rotation cards because we have to prepare for a PTC on the 27th, the 26th. That for some asinine reason we can't play our new cards at.
Hey, the SI and weekly
And
exclusive cards are too new. It's okay. Don't begrudge everyone else for not having not being Mr. Moneybags, Sean O'Brien.
when you're part of the 1%, you do begrudge everyone else who's poorer than you, right? And I think that's how being rich works.
What about your middle class values?
Nah. So what we're going to be doing, we will catch back up on Monday night. We're going to be starting with set number 052, Lonely. Everybody have a great night, and we'll see you on Monday.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye.